ICE has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. ICE has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. ICE has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. ICE has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. ICE has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. ICE has got to go. Here we go. We got another one. You know what I'm saying? Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Ready? All right, here we go. Say it loud. Say it clear.
Say it clear.
Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear.
Can you grab it now?
Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here.
All right, now let's go out here and represent our Spanish-speaking community as well. We're going to start off with a nice, powerful chant to get everybody pumped up. We're going to represent all of our immigrants, stand up for their rights, and show it that we care about their future. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. 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 Unido jamás será vencido. Unido jamás será vencido. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start off with the next chant right before we start with our opening remarks. One last one, everybody. We want to feel some excitement out here. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Alright, perfect. Everybody with me one last time. What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Alright, thank you everybody for getting us all pumped up. We're going to go ahead and transition on over to Karen, our worker from WWJ.
Good morning. Today we are gathered outside the Department of Homeland Security's office, call on DHS and all agencies under it, including ICE, to demand the release of guidelines that protect undocumented labor leaders from employer retaliation. As promised by Secretary Mayorkas in October, this past Saturday was the deadline for agencies under DHS, including ICE, to submit those plans that implement the promise. We are here to demand transparency around those processes and say in a unified voice, DHS, will you protect immigrant workers? Warehouse Workers for Justice is proud to stand in solidarity with the workers, along with many community groups gathered here today. We know that all workers are harmed when companies are allowed to exploit immigrant workers by paying them substandard wages and putting them in dangerous situations without training. We know that temporary workers like Adewale Ogunyemi are often undocumented, leaving them to fall between the cracks of both immigration and labor laws. And the tragic death of workers like Adewale is proof of how dangerous these cracks can be. We know that an end to employer abuse can only come when workers can stand together no matter who they are or where they're from. It's time for employers to freely stop abusing and discriminating against immigrant workers and use ICE as their tool to do so. This needs to end now. So allow me to welcome our next speaker. She is Cook County Commissioner Alma Anaya.
Thank you. I have a new chant for you guys.
Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. We're here, we're not leaving. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. This is an important time in our history in the United States. We know that the United States was built on slavery and also immigrants. And for us to stand here, for our agencies and our federal government to turn their backs on essential workers and immigrant workers is a shame, right? It's a big shame. I think this is important to me personally because I'm an immigrant myself. I was undocumented for most of my life, and to me, I saw the struggles of my family. And it wasn't until I was a young adult that I actually learned that my mom was a farm worker. That my mom, for many years in her teenage years, had seen how she was harassed by ICE, and her family saw a lot of that. And it's embarrassing to say that, 30 years later, these are the same tactics that are being used for our immigrant communities. That although they were essential workers, people that had to get food for us and get it on our table, people that didn't stop during the pandemic, people that got COVID, got their family sick, people that died. Let's just ponder on that. Immigrants lost their life, many of them without getting any type of legal protection, many without even receiving their green card, many without getting their citizenship. And that's a shame. That's a big shame of the U.S., who is a place, again, a country of endless possibilities, of the American dream, to turn our backs on our immigrant workers. It's a shame. So we're here, solidified and unified, to say no more. ICE and DHS needs to step up, and they need to do something about the horrible treatment of our immigrant workers, not just during the pandemic, which is shameful enough, but during centuries and decades. It's a shame. So I stand here in solidarity with you all. As the chief sponsor of the anti-retaliation ordinance that we passed in Cook County that protected immigrant workers from getting retaliated because they either had COVID or they had to be there for their families if they were at risk. We've done everything that we can do at a local level. We've done everything at the state level. We've done a lot, and it's time for this agency to really protect the American people, and the American people includes our immigrants. Doesn't it? Hola, me llamo Alma Naya, yo soy la comisionada del 7º distrito. Hoy estamos aquí para decir que aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Como comunidad inmigrante, necesitamos que esta agencia, que ICE, empiece a ver qué ha hecho en su agencia contra los trabajadores que han sido esenciales. Este país, que es un país que decimos que es lleno de oportunidades, y la gente aquí que también se considera que son americanas, también son los inmigrantes. Yo nunca supe hasta ya que fui casi una adulta que mi mamá, ella trabajaba en los files y ella vio exactamente cómo se trataban a las personas inmigrantes. Y yo como inmigrante, yo misma, ahora yo reflejo eso, porque no hemos cambiado nada. Nuestro país ha sido lo mismo ya por décadas, de injusticias, de cómo estamos tratando a los trabajadores que sí son esenciales, que sí de veras estuvieron ahí, que perdieron su vida y que pusieron la vida de sus familiares también en mucho peligro por estar afuera en esta pandemia. Es tiempo que ICE y es tiempo que el gobierno federal empiece a hacer cambios, empiece a proteger, porque esto ya no lo estamos aceptando. Hemos hecho todo lo posible aquí en la ciudad de Chicago, en el condado de Cook y en el estado de Illinois para proteger a los trabajadores esenciales inmigrantes. Pero hemos visto que hay injusticia tras injusticia y no lo vamos a aceptar ya. Estamos estamos aquí juntos para de pedir a esta agencia que continúe protegiendo y que empiece protegiendo, diré, a los trabajadores y que ya no traiga un poco más de transparencia en el proceso. Es tiempo que haya cambios. Estamos haciendo este pedido y suplicando que ya pare este tipo de ataques a la comunidad migrante. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Alma Anaya. Next, we're going to be hearing from a former warehouse worker, Samantha Ante. She worked while undocumented in the warehouses in Joliet for 4 years, and so we would want to hear her perspective on the importance of the DHS memo. Thank you.
My respect goes to all warehouse workers. I was there doing their job. I saw the injustices that they go through, and that's why I'm here speaking to all of you. My name is Samantha, and I moved to the U.S. from Mexico when I was 16 years old to look for better opportunities. Right out of high school, I saw the opportunity of getting a lot of hours at a warehouse, and I did that for 4 years to pay for my college education. The working conditions really depended on which warehouse they send you to. So all of the workers will say, oh no, don't go to that one. There's this injustices there, or people really treating bad on that one. So it really depended where they send you. The jobs are really not stable and did not pay for a living wage. Since I was working for a staffing agency, you may know that they bounce you off depending on where they have worked. They really treat you as you are replaceable and you can just do whatever. I encountered that the people that were the line leads or the people training, they really did not treat their workers the way that they deserve. 80% of the warehouses that I worked, the line leaders or supervisors were really, really rude to their workers. They treated them like if they were just a machine. They did not give them enough breaks. People were afraid of asking for a day off because they were scared of being laid off or being told that there's no more work, that the production went down, so there's no space for them. There's a lot of fear in that aspect. And also, other workers, since they know the status of their co-workers, I felt like they treated them differently. They did not treat the immigrant workers with dignity or respect. They did not provide proper training or even created like a safe environment. Everything was really unsure for the workers there. They also, they used to pay $8.25 an hour at the time I was working. Luckily, it's more now, but it's still not a living wage. And the warehouse needs to understand that these people are working 14, 15 hours, 16 hours with no breaks, with the fear of getting deported on top of that. So they deserve a living wage. I remember when I was working at warehouses, we used to work 50, 60 hours a week. And I used to see 60-year-olds or 70-year-old immigrant workers carrying heavy boxes, doing heavy work. And I thought to myself, why are they letting these people do this if they know they're older? But they did not care. And I told the lady, Maria, I remember her name was, and I told her, you cannot do this. You need to report it. Lo tienes que reportar. And scared, she said, no, I need the money to work. And if you do this, they're going to replace you. I cannot complain. They're going to replace me. So I thought myself, wow, I am an immigrant worker here too. Am I replaceable as well? So that really stuck to me, and I started to have fear as well of reporting things, of making myself heard. But then I remember that we can make a difference, and I think that's why we are all here, because we are tired of that. So this is why we are here today. Because if having those guidelines that now they are promising to protect immigrant workers from abuse and mistreatment at their jobs, that will be a huge step towards creating a safe and stable workplace for immigrants and empowering immigrant workers to exercise their labor rights at work. Even I know that some of the coworkers that my mom has now at the warehouse she's working, they are all, now they're legal residents, thank God.
but they still carry that fear that they had when they were undocumented. I think that fear never leaves you. So that's why we need the guidelines that are going to change that. So this would have helped alleviate the fear of discussing workplace issues from undocumented individuals. It is important that we report on safe workplace and not have the fear that your status might cause more issues rather than benefit the situation. So we are out here today calling on DHS and ICE to publicly release the guidelines that they've created that are supposed to provide immigrants with a pathway to report abusive workplace. They need to actually do something, not just say it. You cannot say, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. No, now we are asking you to give us guidelines with specific dates where you are trying to execute those guidelines, and tell us exactly when you plan to execute your ideas. Transparency is a key part of this because immigrant workers need to know that this protection exists and that they will be enforced before they feel safe reporting issues at work. We are not silent, we are here to stay, and we are the generation that is not going to hide anymore. And we are here to call you out on it.
Thank you, Samantha. Powerful message. Next, I would like to introduce Don Villar. He is the Secretary-Treasurer of the Chicago Federation of Labor. CFL is a friend to immigrant workers here across Chicagoland. Don will share some remarks from CFL on the DHS memo and the ongoing fight to protect immigrant workers.
Thank you, Karen. I got another chant for you all. What do you want for Christmas? Protect immigrant workers. What do you want for Christmas?
Protect immigrant workers!
What do you want for Christmas?
Protect immigrant workers!
What do you want for Christmas?
Protect immigrant workers!
Thank you, sisters, brothers. Nice intro.
Woo!
Very good. Thank you. I'm Don Villar, Secretary-Treasurer of the Chicago Federation of Labor. And I want to thank our brothers and sisters, our brothers from SMART, Local 73, Chico workers, getting in solidarity with us. And, we're the labor movement. We're all part of the labor movement. So what we say in the labor movement, solidarity, an injury to one is an injury to all. So an injury to any worker, whether they're union or non-union, it touches all of our lives. After word of Wally's death came, and the stories that were coming out at Rich Foods, I looked at my freezer, and holy cow, there was some food made from Rich Foods. I was like, oh, it just made me so sick. The fact that, the blood, sweat, and tears and the death of a worker is in these products. In these things that we consume. It's everywhere around us. And we can't let that stand. I mean, the Chicago Federation of Labor, for 125 years, we've been fighting for justice for workers. On these streets of Chicago, whether it's the Haymarket, or down in Pullman, or at the stockyards, or over at the steel mills, everywhere in this city, we fight for workers. When we see a worker marginalized, when we see the disrespect, that's not right, and we got to stand up. So we are here in solidarity with you all. Again, an injury to one is an injury to all. And I'm an immigrant as well. My family immigrated from the Philippines in the 70s. And thank you. And back then, it was escaping the dictatorship. Thank you. Of Marcos, right? So my family immigrated here in Chicago. And my father was actually on strike and was a labor leader in the Philippines before we immigrated to Chicago. So the fight, the struggles of immigrant workers, it's in my blood, and I stand in solidarity with you all. Because when we see injustice, when we see people marginalized, when we see people being pit against each other, they're pitting immigrant, undocumented workers against other workers. And it's that race to the bottom. And, in this season of Christmas or the holidays, we gotta say stop. And all I want for Christmas, protect immigrant workers. All
All I want for Christmas.
Protect immigrant workers.
All I want for Christmas.
Protect immigrant workers.
Well, solidarity, sisters and brothers.
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Immigrant rights, labor rights.
Same struggle, same fight.
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 Okay, we're gonna start another one. It's power to the people. No one's illegal. When I say power to the people, y'all say no one is legal. Y'all ready? Power to the people.
No one is illegal.
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 All right, let's get this crowd pumped up now. Let's represent a Spanish-speaking community out here. ICE, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
ICE, escucha, estamos en la lucha. ICE, escucha, estamos en la lucha. ICE, escucha, estamos en la lucha. ICE, escucha, estamos en la lucha.
Escucha, estamos en la lucha. Escucha, estamos en la lucha. All right, everybody, we're getting pumped up out here. All right, let's go ahead and finish off with another one. All right. Alerta, alerta, alerta que camina la lucha popular por una vida digna. Alerta, alerta. Alerta que camina la lucha popular por una vida digna. Alerta, alerta, alerta que camina la lucha popular por una vida digna. Alerta, alerta que camina la lucha popular por una vida digna.
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
Yeah!
That's great. Thank you. So next, up here, we're going to welcome Fasika Alem. She is the Program Director at the United African Organization. As a member of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, UAO has been a vital resource for Black immigrants and refugees in the Chicagoland area, and an essential advocate for immigrant solutions that leave no people behind.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Fasika Alem and I'm with the United African Organization. We are an organization advocating on behalf of Black immigrants and refugees across the state of Illinois, many of whom are warehouse workers, right? And so for us to be here today is very important. We're here today to make sure that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE enforce their guidelines that protect immigrant workers who report abusive workers. We're all familiar, and I was here not too long ago, in place with many of you to talk about the same issue. We're familiar with the story of Wale, who was a temporary worker from Nigeria who lost his life July 2020th. to a preventable workplace incident at Rich Foods in Preston, Illinois. His life matters to us, and it should matter to all of us. And the lives of those that work in warehouses matter to all of us. And this is why we're here. We welcome DHS's willingness to put forward new policies that support the enforcement of labor and employment laws and standards. This is a step in the right direction. However, ICE, USCIS, TBP, as they review their policies and prepare their proposals, we want to make sure they hear from our communities, from directly impacted people, about the kinds of changes we want to see. We want to make it clear that while this seems like an improvement on the surface, guidelines alone do not protect workers, nor do they prevent workplace accidents. We need to address the issue at its root. The issue is that immigration enforcement tears communities apart and disproportionately hurts our communities. That is it, period. That's the bottom line. Ultimately, the only solution we can count on are permanent solutions, a pathway to citizenship. That's what we can count on. This is a solution that provides people with permanent status, that provides the protections. We need Congress, we need President Biden to act now. We need Senator Biden to act now to push for a pathway to citizenship and to end ICE detentions. It's time for Congress. This is the time, and we want it now. So I'm going to lead us in a quick chant. You know, we've been chanting, so if you would oblige me, lead us in a chant. So I'm going to say, citizenship for who? Are you going to say citizenship for all? Okay, let's go. Citizenship for who?
Citizenship for all.
Citizenship for who?
Citizenship for all.
Citizenship for who?
Citizenship for all.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Femi Matimoju, a friend of Adewale Owunyemi, who Fasika talked about in her remarks. Adewale was an immigrant from Nigeria who worked as a temporary worker at a food warehouse in Crest Hill, Illinois, called Rich Products. While working at Rich, Adewale was killed in a tragic and preventable workplace accident. In the wake of Adewale's death, co-workers were afraid to speak out due to immigration status.
Is Amy
When
always
workers
like
are
this on
subject to
Facebook?
unsafe working conditions, and when those conditions lead to injury and death, employers know that they can threaten undocumented workers with workplace raids. This has to end.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having me here. Yeah, my name is Femi, and I'm here. I had to step away from work to be here to join this wonderful rally. This is something we should not wait to do until something actually happens to you directly. It is something we should be doing every day until the government listens to us. Unfortunately, I lost a brother and a friend to work accident, and I say that Adewale wasn't protected. He wasn't protected at all, because if the environment was made conducive for everybody, he wouldn't die as he did in July 20th. He has 2 kids, 9 and 7, and a 38-year-old wife. He came here to just survive like you and I. But unfortunately, the working environment wasn't made conducive for him. And that is why he lost his life. He didn't plan to die. He's been working there every day for almost a year until that fateful night. He didn't do nothing wrong. Same thing that he has been doing for almost a year, but because the environment wasn't made safe, that is why he died. And up to now, the company are yet to even say a word about it. It doesn't matter. Immigrants are only here to take care of their family, to work, and I don't think that is a crime. They are here to work so that they can take care of their family. And in the course of doing that, it is government's right to make it safe for everyone. And if that is not done, then why are we called the most powerful nation in the world? It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't add up. So that is why it is very important that we have to keep on fighting until they listen to us, until this is actually we are achieving. Thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So next, I have a statement from a worker leader for Fight for 15, who could not be here today, but wanted to share a statement on their experience as immigrant worker. And it reads like this. Hello, everybody. Hello everyone. I have been a McDonald's worker for the last 20 years and a leader in the fight for 15 and a union. As a fast food worker, I have seen now how people have been mistreated and made invisible by the discrimination that many immigrants, especially Latinos, face in this country. We have been essential workers working throughout the pandemic. But when we organize ourselves for better working conditions, being undocumented makes us vulnerable. And many of our colleagues have been afraid to report wage theft and other abuses for fear of being fired or having their immigration status questioned. I write this message to support Warehouse Workers for Justice and everyone who fights for the rights of undocumented workers. We support changing the law to ban workplace rapes because everyone deserves to work and live without fear. Thank you.
Let's get this crowd pumped up again. We want to show everybody that we stand in solidarity with our immigrant workers, that we care about their rights, that everything that we do is to try to improve the lives of our communities and all the different people that come to this country to find a better life. Let's go ahead and start off with another chant. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. 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 Jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Hey, hey, oh, oh, ICE has got to go.
Hey, hey! Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
All right, here we go. Immigrant rights, labels rights, same level, same fight. Immigrant rights, labels rights.
Same struggle, same fight!
Immigrant rights, labels rights.
Same struggle, same fight!
Immigrant rights, labor 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 rights.
Same struggle, same fight!
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Woo!
Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear.
Immigrants are welcome here!
Say it loud, say it clear.
Immigrants are welcome here!
Say it loud, say it clear.
Immigrants are welcome here!
Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear.
Immigrants are welcome here! Woo!
Yep. Next, we are going to hear from one of our very own, Janelle White, the director of the Temporary Worker Union Alliance Project. She will share some remarks about how this DHS memo will affect temporary workers across the state.
All right, that's an intro. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. As Karen already told you guys, my name is Janelle White. I'm the director of the Temp Worker Union Alliance Project, TUA, which is housed here in Warehouse Workers for Justice. I'm happy to be here today to help boost awareness for this issue. While the DHS memo urging the stoppage of ICE raids in workplaces is a step in the right direction, there's still so much work that's left for us to do. In most cases, temp workers are minorities. An overwhelming majority of temp workers are African American and Latinx. And with an increasing number of these jobs going to immigrants. Over 80% of temp assignments in Illinois are staffed by non-white workers. 1 in 6 workers in Illinois is an immigrant. So these two issues intersect. Companies resort to discriminatory hiring practices like background checks and focusing on immigration status to keep workers stuck in jobs that leave no room for advancement. Temp workers do the same work for less pay and oftentimes little to no benefits. That's not right, and we need to collectively push to stop corporate greed. Temp workers are the most vulnerable, especially throughout the duration of this pandemic. We've heard horror stories about health and safety violations in the workplace. Workers complained about not being given adequate PPE, no social distancing, and insufficient safety training, just to name a few. This has resulted in preventable illness, injury, and even death. All workers have the right to be safe at work. It's time now to prioritize workers' health and safety. Companies need to ensure that all workers are adequately trained and safety protocols are adhered to at all times. Companies that fail to provide a safe working environment should be held accountable. Stop prioritizing profits over people. There is a need for legislation to protect immigrant workers and temp workers alike. Companies shouldn't be allowed to weaponize ICE raids. All workers have the legal right to organize and should be able to do so without fear of retaliation. Organizing is your right. In closing, I encourage everyone here and those of you who may be watching this online to continue to share these stories and amplify the voices of workers all over and the situations and injustices that they face. Moreover, it's time to encourage lawmakers to remember temp workers and immigrant workers. They deserve to be protected.
Again, pumped again now. All right, we're going to start off with some more chants right now, just to keep this crowd pumped. Again, we're all out here to represent our immigrant workers' rights. This country's built on the backbone of all of the different people that have come here to try to build a better world for their families, their community, and everybody that wants to have a more equitable society. So let's go ahead and start off. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Thank you so much. So next, I would like to invite Illinois State Senator Cecilia Villanueva. She's going to make some remarks.
How's everyone doing? I need to come to more actions with bands. Like, that's amazing. Good job, guys. So I'm Selena Villanueva. I'm State Senator of the 11th District. I represent the southwest side of the city of Chicago and the southwest suburbs, including neighborhoods like Little Village and Brighton Park. And I'm the very, very proud daughter of Mexican immigrant parents, working class parents. So when I come out here and tell you that I stand with workers, I stand with workers. When we're out here asking for dignity and respect for our immigrant communities, for our working class populations, we're out here asking and demanding for dignity and respect. Because it isn't just about protecting our folks, it's about making sure that they're getting those protections in the workplace. Because nobody should be driven out of their jobs out of fear that ICE is going to come and round people up when they go to work. No one should be living in fear that the bosses are trying to kick people out of their jobs by telling them that they're going to call ICE on them. And what we're here is demanding to make sure that those guidelines are set in place and that there is transparency. Because our communities, all of our communities, deserve dignity and respect. They deserve to have dignity and respect, not just in their daily lives, but when they go to and from work in every single moment. So I'm here with you all, again, as a very proud daughter of Mexican immigrant parents, of a dad who is still a working man in this country, a dad who is a legal permanent resident, and a dad who I fear for. The sister of two brothers and a sister of people, again, a very large Mexican family who has had all of these struggles, because they have worked in factories, they have worked in working class low-wage jobs. And the reality is everyone deserves the dignity and respect to be able to live their lives without fear or persecution from anyone. So thank you all for doing the work that you all do, because without all of you all, the organizers, the organizations, the warehouse workers, without all of you all, we would not be here. And guess what? We have your back. We all have your back. So I stand with you here today, and I'm going to keep standing on with you tomorrow, and I'm going to keep on walking, and I'm going to keep on coming to any action that has a band, because I will be there. But thank you all for having me here, and I got your back.
So thank you all for being out here today with us. We are committed to continuing this fight, and we will continue to demand the release of the guidelines from DHS. We will be watching to make sure that ICE ends workplace rates. We will be watching. Immigrant workers deserve dignity, and we must keep this fight. Thank you so much, and the band will see us out. Thank you all for coming.